right, here we are, back with another Sub CLE. Today, I'm pretty excited about this. You know, I had the opportunity to go to a Taco Bell show. And if nobody knows about this, you're about to know. What we have here, Franco.
How's it going?
Franco, yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I really have some questions for you on this one. Well, first of all, let's talk about the. I want to get into your background and stuff, but I also want to. What's up with this Taco Bell show? Like, how did this happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah. How did it happen? So, the Cleveland DIY scene's very, very alive and abundant.
Okay.
A lot of cool people doing a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of happening. So I guess some of my homies, they just decided to do a show at Taco Bell. And at the time, I've been doing these video game events.
Okay.
Under the name N69.
So is that like a Twitch thing? Or?
So it's like events. Like I'll run events and do like basically video game tournaments. Or different video game competitions like Mario Kart
right.
competition or tournament. But it's in person. I usually do them at pretty regularly at no class.
Okay.
But yeah, I was doing that and decided to do a pop-up at the first one that they were planning because I was homies with some of the people who were originally going for it.
Right.
But essentially, it was like a guerrilla style event where it's like show up and just see what happens, dude. Like just try to have a good time. I think there was an attempt to see if there's interest from Taco Bell's, joining in collaboration, cooperation. And
wait, but how does Taco Bell just come into the equation? Like I don't understand.
Oh, like I said, they just a couple homies of mine were just like, what if we did a show at Taco Bell?
But why?
Oh, why?
I mean, why Taco Bell, not Arby's? Why not Rally's?
Taco Bell's got like some kind of vibe, right?
Yeah.
Like, where's usually the place that most people I know after a night of just like if they've been partying or something like in a social context.
Right.
Usually it's like after a night out at the club or something like that. Like if you go to Taco Bell, you could be in line and in front of you is like some like beater, just like crappy car from like late 80s. And then behind you is going to be like just the flyest like Camaro or
Maserati.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, sincerely. Like everybody loves Taco Bell and like that's a big draw. And it's cooking stuff. So, and it's not really a glorification of Taco Bell that was like any kind of thought process. It was just like, it's a Taco Bell. What if we played a show? And it's like, I want to play a show to Taco Bell. That seems like fun.
Right.
We wanted to do it, so we did it. And that was like,
well, I mean, I want to do a lot of things in life, but you know,
yeah, but
how do you facilitate that though?
Pure punk ethos, man.
Yeah. I'm all about that because it does have that punk vibe for sure.
Right. Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's just the sincerity of like the DIY effort where it's. Like I said, in nowhere were we trying to glorify like a corporation or something like that. It was more so the event, the act itself. It's like, what's ridiculous?
That's the way it comes across.
I think it's just so ridiculous that was part of the draw where it's like, wait a second, these bands are playing where?
Yeah.
That sounds like a freaking weird dream that I had. I'm in.
So, all right. So, yeah, I want to do a lot of things in life, but how do I facilitate that? Like, so somebody knows like a manager at Taco Bell or what?
I think they just went up and asked, and essentially it was like, nah, we're good. Taco Bell didn't have any interest.
That's what I would expect.
Yeah, and they essentially it was like partly, I guess they were kind of bullheaded where it's like, screw it, we're going to do it anyways. They tried to ask. There's no bad intentions, essentially, was the idea behind going through with it is like,
sure,
we can have a good time and it can be a good time for everyone. We're not, nothing bad is going to happen necessarily.
I would like to interject.
Could.
I would like to say that I was at the most recent one, and nobody was trying to do any bad things at all. Everyone was just like genuinely having a good time. And that's why I was like, who put this together? This is like really cool. And that's how I kind of went through the paths and found you, you know what I mean? And it was genuinely like, it's all like everyone has good intentions.
Well, it stems from a very, very close nature. It's from the DIY community, which, you know, there's like a network of people who, you know, we all work together. We see each other at shows all the time. It's that community vibe. So it stems from these people who essentially it's like homies with a bunch of other homies, and all of us are involved in the art somehow. With like music, where it's like either like playing in bands or, you know, booking bands or managing something band music related. That, you know, you got a network of people who are creatively talented who want to do something, and they're talented at, like, you know, event organization, for example. Well, okay, people involved like throw a show. There's a DIY house called Slime House. It's, I believe, the successor now is Pigpen. And essentially it's like DIY spaces that they host shows. Like, this all stems from the music scene itself. That if they're doing shows, it starts to catch on, and it's a cool place. A lot of people go to these things, they check it out. They're like, oh, I heard about this, or my friend hits this up. And essentially you got this community of people who are close enough that they are having a good time. Everybody's homies. So then it's word of mouth. So basically just homies with homies are finding out. We're not putting this advertising it out for like everybody to come out from, you know, wherever, you know, everybody's welcome, but we're not trying to draw people out so much as we're just trying to do something purely awesome for the community. And just like, it's a passion for sure. Everybody involved doing the music, doing whatever else we had going on with all the entertainment we had besides the music. So when you get like homies who have good ideas, and I try to be like a decent person where my involvement, to the extent that it was mostly around the video game stuff, still I was working with people directly who, in my experience, like were people who were doing influential stuff in the music community. So it's definitely like an honor to be working among people who are doing big ideas and just saying, screw it, let's do this. And seeing what happens when you have a lot of people who are working hard to make something like the Taco Bell show. And the first one, essentially, it was like a bunch of people. If you knew, you knew. If you didn't, then you didn't. But those who knew were probably part of like the homies community. And I think good attracts good, like decency attracts a lot of decency. So the bad eggs kind of weed themselves out. So I was very fortunate and lucky that this thing at this point with the Baja Blast 3 that we just did to the size it is, had things pretty much go really like just respected the crowd for like respecting what it was itself. I think that like a lot of people involved knew that this wasn't something that was just, you know, being put on. Like, they knew the people that were doing it were the people who were involved with it personally. I think everybody kind of like had that acknowledgement, like, this is like, you know, something, I don't know, it felt respectful that people actually had a good time without trying to make it bad for anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, you know, and there's no alcohol.
I mean, there's the Funhouse right there.
Right, sure, yeah, obviously, and I felt that was respected, you know, too. Like, it just seemed like because it's a lot of people.
Yeah, well, these bands, I think there's got to be something. Oh, well, part of the DIY scene and the close-knit community was that people interact with the artists interact with the people who support them, you know, whether it's fans or more so just like homies who are supporters. It's like, you know, we're all in it together. And a lot of homies and supporters are also artists and musicians as well. So I feel like there's a lot of recognition at like, you know, what went into this, where the bands aren't like making money. So if somebody ruins it by doing something that's going to be attracting, you know, attention for doing something wild just to attract attention and ruin it and cause it to potentially get shut down, that ruins it for all the other bands that came out that didn't get to perform and such.
Right.
So also onto that, like, there's a lot of people in the scene that if you're gonna tick off a lot of people by ruining something for everybody, you're probably gonna tick off some people who might not make you feel as welcome as you might have been beforehand.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, God, with any good thing, there could be somebody wants to crush it. They can have like an agent provocateur in there, just like cause like a ruckus or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't seem like it vibes that way,
Yeah.
Like you said, it just weeds itself out. Like those people would just not even be there, right?
Yeah. It's all purely good times. Like,
yeah, no, yeah.
Come escape.
Yeah. So, but I'm really interested in
oh yeah,
the whole like how
yeah. So lightning in a bottle essentially, because the first one I pulled up that day and pulled up in front of Taco Bell, and all the managers were out there because they kept like word got around, and the Taco Bell managers were all waiting outside. And I pulled up. I'm just like, this doesn't. Like, as soon as they come up with amps, like, they're just going to be, like, face-to-face with the managers and such. So that's when that was, like, the big thing.
So you've already talked to the managers for the first one?
Yeah, the first one.
You've already talked to them, and you said, hey, we're going to do this, and they were like, okay, cool.
Well, in all fairness, I was essentially... I was just doing my video game stuff as far as, like... other people involved who have dropped off for personal reasons and
let's take it back a little bit because I guess I don't understand the whole video because you go back to the video game stuff. How does that correlate to the Taco Bell?
Oh, okay. So I started doing video game events out a couple of years ago, and mostly at No Class. Emma, who owns that, was super helpful.
And I've been in the past I've asked her to do this, and hopefully she'll come on and
no, she's a saint.
Yeah. I hear a lot of good things about her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, she'd love her family. She basically helped me. She's got a couple systems she like lets me use for like the free play and such, and I started doing some events. Learned a lot from failing a lot.
Well, that's how that works.
Yeah. Just one failure after another. I'm like, all right, well, this doesn't.
You can't fail and give up.
Right? Yeah. It was. I was just like, I just want to have a good time out, hang out at the bar. I thought it'd be cool to play some retro video games. It was just trying to have a good time is where it all stemmed from. And so I started doing these video game events. Fast forward a couple of years, almost 2 years. I decided to throw like a whole fest with like. It essentially turned out to be over 25 performing artists, bands, DJs. I had some comedians, some drag artists, a couple food pop-ups.
So, and that's, because in the past I've put together shows and I was like, I just want to have like a little art and music show. But then all these other, you're doing what? And all these other people kind of pop up and want to be a part of it. Is that pretty much how that works?
Actually, not too much. So,
which I think it's cool. It's like a big collab thing,
Yeah. That's essentially what it was.
Yeah.
I originally started doing the video game events because I had a lot of homies who were doing really cool
were you playing
things.
Music while you were playing the video games?
I hadn't gotten into any bands at that point or like gotten too much.
Because I think that's why this seems so unique to me because it's coming from another. You know what I mean?
It's there is a point. I can get to that point where it starts to intersect a bit.
Okay.
So, so background, I'm a musician. That's been my thing. And, was in bands back in Virginia Beach. And then I moved here. And I moved here, made a bunch of friends with a lot of people who did events of their own and were artists, a lot of mostly like drag artists and such. Okay. So one of my first friends here is Mike McKay, who runs Black Mass, which is a drag show, and he throws the coolest events. And I was just like, wow. And then a bunch of other friends and homies of mine that I would make are throwing events of their own. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. I'm taking notes.
That's cool.
And I'm just like, okay, one day I'm chilling. It'd be cool if I could play some video games. I'm like, wait, it'd be cool if like, I thought it'd be cool if I walked into a cool bar, like let's say No Class, because that's where I'm like getting the idea to do it at. And I'm just like, it would be cool to walk in with this vibe and see like an N64 or something like that with some retro stuff where people are like doing a Mario Kart, for example. I don't know if you ever played that.
No.
It's basically Mario Kart, but it's a drinking game.
Okay.
I'll teach you sometime.
Okay, yeah. I'd love to. Well, I do like the drinking.
Yeah. But yeah, essentially, I was inspired by other homies of mine that were throwing these awesome events. I'm like, okay, let me try to do something.
Right.
I wasn't trying to be cocky by thinking I could just throw an event and it'd be great. Because like it's been like I said, the successes are just an amalgamation of failures, but learning from them, it's been so much value through the experiences that I've gone through running these events. And there's plenty of great times where I'm just like, okay, like awesome. This is great. There's like people here having a great time. The bar's happy. People are happy. I'm happy. Like this is great.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's the inspiration from the community itself where I'm just like, wow, this place is super artsy. That inspires me to do the video game events. So I'm doing that. I decide to throw a whole fest because I have all these homies who play in bands because I'm into the music scene and such. And I like come across plenty of homies where it's like, oh, okay, shoot, I'm surrounded by all these artists, drag artists, musicians. I'm like, oh, I got a homie who's a comedian and he's got comedian friends. So I'm just like, it'd be great to see all these people come together because all of them that I know are awesome people. And the video game stuff, I met a lot of cool gamers. I used to think I was a gamer. Now I've put myself at gaming enthusiast. I'm not that great at video games.
Oh, okay.
So the gamers who come out and like are all about it, there's been a lot of like really righteous people in that community who have really helped my whole like video game brand and my own knowledge as far as like getting savvy to the competitive tournament scene for video games, where it's like, oh, there's a whole scene for Super Smash Brothers Melee.
That's
crazy. A GameCube system video game.
Right.
But that's what is like.
Well, the GameCube was a sweet system, though.
Yeah. No, couldn't go wrong there. But yeah, it's just like, I want to merge. I just want a place to have a party with a bunch of awesome people.
Right.
Boom.
That is really cool. Yeah. No, yeah, because. Okay, so it's like everything's being painted in my head. Like the picture is being painted slowly because when you go to that Taco Bell show, you're just like, okay, what? How did this?
Yeah, it's very similar.
And there's all kinds. Like you said, it's not just music. There's other artists and there's other things going on.
A little ADHD.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I'm like, how does this come about? And I think that's the whole. Essence of what I'm trying to do here is a subculture.
Mm-hmm.
Sub CLE,
Nice.
And I think that's this is exactly, but I don't know anything about this. I don't know. I actually really like to play video games. I mean, but like yourself, I'm not that good. You go online and. Some like 10-year-old kid like is trash talking you. Of course. I'm like
it's mostly nostalgia.
What is going on here? But it's a cool thing, and to see that coalesce into the music scene, which I'm still kind of
all right, so the how that got involved. So I throw this N69 Fest, and one of the artists and bands on there was one that was kind of like coming up and very popular within the DIY scene. And since then they've dissipated, and unfortunately a common thing, some controversy around, ins and outs of things, as happens plenty. But I got them to play at my N69 Fest. And I think essentially one of their members was mostly spearheading the Taco Bell show as far as like executing it. Mm-hmm. That they saw how I was able to put together an event of like 25 performing artists and make it what it was.
Right.
'Cause overall, it was a good time. Like I made sure the bar was happy and the artists were all happy and people that came were happy, and it was a good time. Very proud, but I also learned a lot from doing that. That I was like, oh boy, I do not want to make that mistake again. So ultimately, I think that the second one, Baja Blast 2, happened for the Taco Bell show, the second Taco Bell show. That happened, and then the person that was running that essentially wanted to just drop off. They had some personal stuff going on, and they essentially entrusted me with pulling off the next one. And he handed it off, where at that point it was up to me, like what's going to happen next. Is there going to be another Taco Bell show?
Right.
And then with that, I'm just like, okay, I'm in this position. I want to do this right.
So, okay. So, all right. So there was the first Taco Bell show. Mm-hmm. And
I did a video game pop up in the back of a truck.
Yeah.
My buddy's truck, Steven let me set up a big old TV, and we had like Mario Kart. And I just had people playing if people wanted to come up.
It's funny saying Mario Kart because I know so many people that just love that game.
Yeah, that's one of the best social.
Like it.
Yeah, it's a good social game if there's going to be video games in a social setting.
Right.
But yeah, classic.
Okay, so and then the second one happened. So was that different?
A little bit, yeah. We had the app. So originally, the first one, the first band went and played, and
the first one was what year? Let's just.
So that was September of last year, actually, 2023.
Not the first one.
The first one was September 2023. The second one was April of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the third one was
September 1st.
Oh, so you did 2 a year.
That's weird. That's what it's coming out to.
Okay.
Yep. And what was I gonna say? Yeah. So the first band played. There's supposed to be 4 bands. Essentially, like I said, I pulled up and there's already managers there. I hit them up. I'm like, yo, if you pull up here, like they're already waiting for you. So it basically got pushed back to technically the Funhouse parking lot. It's just a strip of mulch in between the two.
Right.
So it's like, okay, sure, fine, whatever. The only, I guess, big concern was, oh boy, if Funhouse, decides to say, hey, anything at all, that they could, they had no part of it at all. Like they weren't involved at all. It was just purely
just
like,
reaping the benefits of the people being there.
It's all just purely coincidence. Like there was, like I said, it was just non-involvement. So with
Funhouse,
yeah. So there's nothing involved with them.
And because I do want to say, like when I heard the Taco Bell show, and I saw people posting things, for the first one and then the second one, and then I went to the third one, and I just assumed the Funhouse had something to do with it, but I guess that's not true.
No, correct. Funhouse has nothing to do with it. I'm grateful that, everybody that had a good time and that it's all positive for is grateful that it didn't.
Because for people that don't know, the Funhouse is right next door to Taco Bell, and the Funhouse is like a punk rock kind of hangout.
Spitfire.
Yeah, right.
Shows,
So
with that, we're very fortunate that I guess it didn't make enough disturbance that it caused any communication to happen for anything to get in motion to shut it down. Right. But I think the first band that played felt like it was a ballsy thing that was happening. It was very
sure.
Like it could, So we didn't want to overstay the welcome, I guess.
Right.
Caught enough vibe. As the show was happening, though, here's what would happen. I look across the parking lot and I see on the roof of Taco Bell the employees throwing up metal fingers, like having a good time.
Yeah.
Like rocking out. And I'm like, oh, I think they dig it. They dug it.
Yeah.
So essentially, they're like, yo, just give us a heads up for the next one. And that's what happened with the second one, where it's like there's a heads up to a degree where it was technically okay
in collab.
Yeah, that's where it started to get to become a collaboration with Taco Bell. And fast forward,
and Funhouse.
No, Funhouse is still not
but
involved.
still, you gave them a heads up. Or you gave Taco Bell the heads up.
Yeah, Taco Bell. It was all Taco Bell.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So, so we crossed the border onto the Funhouse parking lot. It was over and done with within enough time that, it wasn't a disturbance technically. So we're really grateful and thankful that it wasn't anything bad that came out of it.
Right.
Like I said, we got lucky that things just went well.
You just want positive vibes, man.
Yeah, that's what we did. Good times.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so did the rest of the show at no class. Emma was cool with bringing the party back over there.
That's cool.
So then the second one, give a heads up to Taco Bell. I helped out a little bit with solidifying a lineup for the after party at no class.
Yeah.
So that's where I was kind of like helping a little bit more with some of the planning. And that was in April of this year, 2024. And earlier this year, back in March, is when I did my festival, kind of centered around the video games, but it was multi-art, musicians, comedy, drag. So yeah, did the second one. Good times. Is a little crazy though. A lot of fireworks actually. And at this point, fireworks are simply just copytracting. So
Sure.
I had to be very explicit about that. The novelty, like, between that and the Adult Mart shows, which I set up at, but I think the fireworks is just like, okay, this is just purely copytracting.
Okay, so wait, hold on. There's a few things in there. First of all, I don't know Adult Mart shows.
Oh no.
No. And,
Yeah. Oh boy.
And well, go ahead. What is that?
So in between Taco Bell shows, they would do these Adult Mart shows at Adult Mart, the closest one in Cleveland area, on the west side. Just threw a show in the parking lot. I had silly video game stuff up, several bands. They did the first one, and then the second one, unfortunately, there was some flaws in the planning that I caught, and I was like, oh boy, this is not going to work with the way it was planned out within the time frame, overlooking some things. And so that essentially got shut down, which I think after the time slots was put out there for everybody to see, it was like, oh, okay, it's basically conflicted with the store hours. And at that point, the flyer had been out, so they tried to roll with it. It was already noise ordinance by that point anyways.
Right.
But there's a whole lot of issues with that where I'm just like, damn, like this should have been planned better. Because I had to back out of it because I was like, this is not going to be good.
So that's something you have to deal with. Yeah, no. That's something you have to deal with because there's got to be maybe some permits that have to be.
Yeah, about that.
So okay, so the third Taco Bell show, it seemed to have went off really well. So there was no police coming in or nothing, because were the other one shut down or
the last one, which was Adult Mart 2, or the attempt at Adult Mart 2, got shut down because it was approaching noise ordinance. There's, like I said, there's a flaw in the planning, but that kind of soured that relationship or doing that kind of thing with Adult Marts. There's a little bit more openness from Adult Marts, and I think probably because the Taco Bell show went well overall. But nonetheless, with Taco Bell 3, so I actually brought on my friend Justin Spohn, who he runs a merch brand called Parma Trash, and also does some chef. He's got a brand called Chef Idiot Face, and he's a really, really great chef. He actually came on to help out with some things that he could with Baja Blast 3. And one of the things that he did was actually reach out to give a heads up and be like, hey, first of all, I made sure that we covered our bases by getting some staff. Made some shirts, told people like, hey, we can't have drinking, we can't have fireworks, can't have anything that's just not good. that, is common sense. So try to cover our bases where it's like, all right, we've got staff, like technically we have our own police. If if there's any worry or concern, if anybody comes out and be like, hey, we've got people on shores that are looking and making sure things are all good. We're trying to be responsible and respectful of this whole thing that's happening that we have this opportunity to do with.
So you don't need like a permit or anything.
Generally speaking, if anybody asks,
because it's private property.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, there's that aspect. Yeah. So I mean, we called up the police department. We told them hey, we're working with Taco Bell directly, and this it's on their private property. We have staff. We've got all this bases covered. We also had EMT out there and such. We said we're being responsible. We understand what we're doing and trying to make it a safe, positive environment for the community. And they're like, all right. Essentially, they're if they've got more important things that need to be taken care of, or I'm not trying to get police time over on my event.
Right. Yeah,
so give them a heads up. That way they don't see this giant gathering of if anybody makes any complaints or anybody makes any outlandish remarks.
It seems menacing.
Yeah, at a glance. But then you go in. That's the thing. At a glance, then you're like, let me check this out. Anybody who came over to check it out was hanging. Good times.
And if you go in there, everyone's super cool.
Yeah, super respectful. Yeah. Somebody fell in a mosh pit. People were there to pick them up.
Well, that's any mosh pit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've been in mosh pits, not recently, but back in the day, and I was so tired. I'm like, just let me lay here for a minute. But no, you can't.
No,
because people are picking you up right away.
Yeah, no, that's I'm gotta love it.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. But Justin reached out to them essentially and kind of made sure that wouldn't be an issue without at least trying to be, do due diligence essentially. So thankfully Justin knocked that out to, you can't control it. You can't make somebody not do anything. So we're really hoping that the crowd that came out would be respectful and chill. So we didn't have any events that was that ruined it. Super glad.
Yeah. And from my perspective, I thought it was really good. Everything went well. Did anything go bad or?
Nothing that comes to mind to ruin it or anything. There's some scrapes within, moshing and such, but pretty much every person who looked like they might, could use a hand. We had an actual EMT professional there, and we had safeguards as well. We had a piercer there as well, and he was first aid certified. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm completely certified. I got all my certifications. Carry Narcan."
Well, I was there, and I'm CPR certified.
Nice.
So,
well, that's the other thing about about it being a community based concept and DIY event is that a lot of the people involved, that are there, it attracts a lot of artists and a lot of people who are people who can contribute.
Yeah, I think it's really, really, really cool. I just got nothing but good vibes from that. But
right on. Shout out Funhouse, by the way. They did have a first aid kit for some bandages.
Oh, nice.
Band-aids, yeah.
Well, yeah, safety is number one.
Yeah. We made sure. Good job to all the people that were
okay. So, all right. So there's that. There's the Taco Bell thing, But let's get into you now. And so, where'd you grow up?
Virginia Beach, Virginia. Yeah.
Okay.
Atlantic.
And then what happened? So obviously you play music now. It sounds like you're more of an event planner. I don't know.
I mean, I don't. That's the interesting part where I'm just like.
Seems like you can get people together.
I just
seems like you have
I like good people and good times.
Yeah.
Put them together. Yeah. No, that's my thing. So just I try to make sure that if I'm planning an event, that people are comfortable and safe and having a good time. I don't know. I saw the opportunity where it's like can do something cool with this opportunity. Like if I've got this ability and opportunity, I didn't say I wanted to be an event planner. I just wanted to have fun, get lit at the bar, play some video games with some homies. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a musician at heart.
Yeah. So way back.
Now I'm playing shows and such.
So way back, growing up in.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't
Virginia Beach.
But was it Virginia Beach?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Next over is Norfolk,
like,
with the biggest naval base.
live in Brook Park and they're like, oh yeah, I'm from Cleveland. You know.
Oh yeah. No.
It's not.
Nah. Virginia, and then it's different out here with the suburbs and such.
Right.
And there it's just like Virginia Beach City. And then there's Norfolk, and then Chesapeake, Portsmouth.
And it's Norfolk.
Norfolk, yeah.
Not Norfolk.
Yeah.
Don't make that mistake.
And then people. If you get heavy into some people will call it Norfolk, but yeah. But you can always tell when someone's not from the area when they're like, yeah, I was in Norfolk, and just like, right on, cool.
So military background?
Yeah, father's side, and then on my grandfather's side, my mom's side, my grandfather was in the Navy. So Italian on my mom's side, and landed at Virginia Beach because, biggest naval base in the world in Norfolk.
Sure.
And then
That's why I asked. Yeah.
Yeah. And then had other, my dad basically came down because there was family in the area from being military. Yeah. And my dad was in military reserves as well, or himself. And that's how Virginia Beach was the spot. Yeah, beautiful place. Oceanfront. I mean, good times. It's beach vibes. I feel like that's where, that's part of my personality. I think it's just like,
not big surf over there though.
So yeah, like no waves, but you can still have fun. Big enough for me as like somebody. I try to do like every sport, and skateboarding. I was more playing it on the video games, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, as opposed to IRL. But surfing is fun.
In real life.
Yeah. In real life, yeah. I sound like a
I gotta
zoomer.
translate,
I was born in 1991, so God, the internet's leaking into my brain. But it's great place. I'd certainly miss my family, of course, living here in Cleveland. And just as well, like it's starting to hit wintertime right now.
Okay, so let's go back. Well, the winters are progressively getting better here.
True. Yeah. No, I didn't know.
Thanks to carbon in the atmosphere. But I guess that's fake or whatever. So nobody knows. But even though it's happening, but whatever. No, but so you grew up. When did you get into music? What?
Going into high school, my buddy had a party at his house, and his guitar instructor, his band played, and that was the first like live show I got into. Like I basically watched because my mom grew up in Italy, so not a lot of like American culture where it's like, oh yeah, here's some rock concerts that I went to when I was young. And my dad is more in country kind of dude, country guy. So I just went to a buddy. I just saw it, happened to go to a party as a little kid. I was like, whoa, that's so cool. Got into playing bass. Actually, it was my first instrument. Favorite, yeah. And
what was your first bass?
It was an Ibanez. It's like a beginner bass. I never got so equipment and like I'm not too technical with the like hardware essentially. I can do music. I can put together songs and such.
Right.
And I never got too deep. I've gotten a little bit into effects and working with digital audio workstations and quite naturally like trying to be self-sufficient.
Wait, so that's the one you didn't want to like acronym?
For the non-musicians listening, like, what's he talking about? Dolls?
Yeah, right.
Why is he playing with dolls?
I'm sorry.
So I can't talk shop with equipment and gear. I'm not much of a gear. I'm trying. Word. Well, I can do like the things that I just come across, but as far as like I don't know, just because I was a kid. So, and then I went to a music shop once and I was like, can I try this pedal? And they're like, no, it's not a toy. Beat it, essentially.
Really?
And I was just like, that was like
That's
my
a bad
vibe.
salesman.
Yeah, that was like my vibe of going to a store. And I was like, well, I guess I can look at it on YouTube, but it's not the same thing. So yeah, it's just weird.
So okay. So like, it sounds like, yeah, you got into music.
Yeah, just randomly, and that stuck. I was doing sports before that, and then I kind of transitioned over to music, and try to maintain a good life balance and such. I was just into music. I did, graduated high school, went to college.
What'd you go to college for?
So my background, mostly my educational background, and work background is IT.
Okay.
Yeah. Which
hence the video games and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
definitely
deep
some
in
cross.
that.
I had allergies really bad when I was in like grade school, like first grade or something. I'd go outside during spring, get messed up, so I had to stay in and play on the computers indoors. And that's where I got savvy with tech stuff and hackers, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's just cool, fun stuff. Technology's crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
That was the route to IT.
Yeah.
And still doing music stuff, just doing that in general, living, and
First band, what were you in?
Oh, so my parents actually got me into one of those like Academy of Rock bands.
I don't know.
It's like a school of rock, basically where these guys will get you a full band together where they put musicians around the same skill level that are kids. So this is like right when I first started music or instruments, playing bass, and you just learn songs together. Thank you. And we learned songs to play shows. They set up a show. It's basically for kids who aren't like already making bands on their own or know how to put together bands.
That is super cool. Like, I didn't even know anything like that existed.
Yeah. Well, I think after that movie with Jack Black, School of Rock came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a lot more of these concepts, and I'm not sure. I know the one that I went through couldn't call themselves School of Rock. They were like Academy of Rock, but great experience.
Yeah.
That got me working with other musicians, and I grew up unfortunately in like that during an era where it's like the social media with like MySpace and stuff like that. So I got into a lot of like trash taste as far as being cultured and
trash taste.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Where it's just like the music starts to it progresses where you get this subgenre of music that is associated with MySpace, based on some sort of vibe, which a big, I think, popular aspect of MySpace among like the kids and youthful generation of that era was like that kind of like emo alternative kind of underground scene vibe.
Okay.
Where you get these.
So you're talking MySpace.
Yeah.
I mean, I
that
was like
cringy stuff.
Well, no,
but good times.
I thought MySpace was cool, because that was a new tool. Like, I was playing in a band, and then I'm like, well, we can go on MySpace and like connect to a lot of different people, And I thought MySpace was cool because you can like make the page. It's like walking into your own home.
Yeah.
You can customize it however you want. When you click on your page, you have a theme song playing.
A lot of
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's more personality. Facebook took away.
It's like bowling with the lanes up as opposed to. It's like Windows versus Mac. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I can't just put together my own stuff. I have to follow whatever's given to me.
Right. Mac would be the more restrictive in that analogy.
And don't get me wrong, I still got a soft spot for some of that vibe and that whole era and whatnot. And there's a lot of like positive, cool stuff. But no, it was definitely an era for sure.
I did see a meme, it was like some young person was born after MySpace, it'd be so cool if like Facebook, you can put your own theme music and decorate it the way you want. And people are like, well, that was MySpace.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, it's almost like, did they put too much ability of customization? Because then it just becomes about just, I mean, there's like MySpace celebrities and such.
Yeah.
So I guess overall, like in retrospect now, looking back, I'm just like, oh boy, like the fad was there in the sense of trying to have gimmicks to attract attention almost, as opposed to where it's like, you know, it's more function these days with social media where people are utilizing it for, you know, content creation. I think these days, the modern day equivalent to MySpace, I'd say is Facebook, but Facebook,
right.
You know, with like Instagram now, there's competition.
Which is still owned by the same company,
exactly,
you know what I mean? So it really, you know, there's like I know it's so weird. I just had this thought for the first time in my life, really, is that like the difference between MySpace and Facebook, same thing, same idea. You're getting, but you're not going to your home. You know, like nobody's going to, I mean, I guess some people stalk people's pages, I guess, but I guess I don't. Right. I don't know. Like I'm not going to somebody's page and looking at their whole page.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas that was the whole thing about MySpace. It was your space. Whatever's in there is all you. Gosh, you know, the decoration, the music, everything. Whereas now, like nobody goes to somebody's space. They just see what they say. Yeah. They see what they express, I guess.
Very true. Yeah. Now that well, these days, essentially, like for the longest time, I had like my social media, what's it called? I had it disabled.
Okay.
So, yeah, because I was just like, I need to just get away from the internet. Like constant, like it's just addictive the way they write these algorithms. It keeps you engaged, and the most engagement that you're going to have, the algorithm tries to push things that are like basically upsetting you because you're more likely to react. So I had to like sign up from that stuff, and I basically came back because I'm doing events where I kind of have to utilize it for
sure
more
does
business
make it
purpose.
Easy.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I do appreciate it, because like I grew up in a time where I was in a band and we were trying to get shows and do things, and it's like you'd have to go to. You know, there's no email. There was no.
Yeah, you had to be
know what
there.
I mean. You had to go there. You had to be a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, and then when it was like, oh, the internet's coming out, and it's like, and then it was like I said, the MySpace thing. It was like, well, now I don't have to leave my house. I could just like set up shows, whatever, and plan things here, and then physically make it happen. You know, whereas I think if you grew up in a time where it was just always like that, maybe that changes something. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree 100%. I think I'm curious myself because it's like I kind of had my foot in a little bit of both worlds, where I kind of grew up when it was very fresh. Because I mean, the first big social media thing like MySpace was MySpace, and then now we've got Facebook and such, and it's evolved with all the competitive, but still under one entity. But you know, I remember, you know, dial up and such. I wasn't as active, obviously, as like going the further back you go, but within, you know, community and scenes. But I grew up in a spot where people who, you know, were older, that were in the same spaces, and like I understood that, you know, you hear this stuff all the time where it's like, oh, nowadays you got the technology, blah blah blah, and then seeing the new generation, especially these days, where, you know, the social media is just blown up to what it is. I've seen a little bit of both worlds, so I don't have the perspective to see it from only one, really. I'm certainly utilizing it in the sense of what I can utilize it for in the most positive way I can, just because that's kind of your best bet these days. But no, I totally agree, and I think that's probably what it's like, is the person who grew up having to go to shows, you know, in person, and you had to be there. I feel like when I see people making comments about those kinds of aspects, it's they see the positive. I mean, do you see a negative as far as besides, the scrolling addiction and such. But as far as like spreading messages and such, even still using the internet and just putting it out there, we post the flyers and we were like, share it, for this last Taco Bell show, and then Spin Magazine covers it and such. And people are like, how do I find out about this? And it's, somehow it's maintained a sense of exclusivity, which I'm totally fine for. I didn't engineer anything in that regard. It just
but now there's an
has
obligation that you have to.
Yeah. It's like, but yeah, which direction do I want to go? Because if I'm plastering this, it's gonna be a bigger crowd quite naturally, but also
harder to control.
Exactly. But we're growing with it. Yeah. I've learned a lot from doing this this last time.
You've I want to get into that, but you've I'm sorry. You brought up a good point where you asked me what the negative was, and it's funny that you said that because we must be on the same page because I was about to ask you that same question.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get out of answering it, but I want to make this more about you.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that.
But I think we can both agree, though, that, like you say, but in the same breath, you asked me, you also said the constant scrolling. Whereas they make it addictive. It's like, let's not leave any room to get distracted away from this.
Yeah. Get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The YouTube loop.
Yeah. Oh God, falling into the black hole, or falling into the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be careful. And then I feel like it kind of tests you a bit in regards to it's pure metrics. You go, let's say back in the day when you had to be at these shows to know what's going on or see what's actually happening. We've got video archive that we can like look on YouTube to see some show from the 80s that I heard, some buddy who's older talk about. And it's like, oh, it was the most epic thing. I look it up and like, wow, that's cool. Nowadays, it's like, okay, I'm, directly able to see how many people are following, how many people like or click buttons, how many people react. And it's very easy to get lost in those aspects where it's like kind of strokes your ego to a degree where it's like, wow, that's a big number that I have just put in front of my face. And that's also part of the algorithm that these social media platforms try to utilize. They're sucking as much as they can out of the users and the content creators and people who are utilizing it for business. Nobody's getting out of this without getting, taken advantage of to some degree.
I think there's something to be said there with the fact that, I played the local band. We never, played out, drew some people here and there, but I guess you never had a metric on how many people actually were interested in you. You know what I mean? So there'd be some shows I'd play, we'd be opening up for somebody, and then like some girl comes up to me, oh my God, I love you. I'm like, didn't expect that at all. Whereas now it seems like, well, now you see the likes.
And other people can see something.
And so you expect it. You probably expect, well, there's probably going to be some people that like us there, whereas you'd be surprised prior to that. I don't know. What do you have to say to that?
I think ultimately overall, a lot of it is there's a lot of BS to it, and not BS, but like backtracking a little bit, I don't want to demonize it because you can absolutely utilize it for, growing yourself as, in this case, event organization. What are people more responsive towards, not so that I can take advantage and buy their time or sell their time, but more so just to, like, if I'm doing something that, I'm trying to get word out, realizing, okay, people are able to see something at a glance because our habits, it's so scientific where it's like, if you do something this way, people are just going to keep scrolling immediately. If you do something this way, people are going to be like, oh, what's this? And sometimes our first impressions can be completely misled about something that's going to be actually worth our time looking at. That's also part of the game where it's, as a, somebody who's viewing content as opposed to creating content, it's like, who knows, that next scroll might be like something really cool. So yeah, it's just mixed in with positive and negative, and ultimately overall, I feel like what what matters most is being there in person, and that's why I really enjoy these the Baja Blast Taco Bell shows, because when people were there, I didn't see any cell phones. Like people were plugged into the reality. They were like totally there having a good time, even though
they were probably there because they were plugged into their cell phones.
Yeah.
But now that they're there, they don't need them.
Yes. Yeah. That was the cool thing to see, and I actually noticed that.
Yeah,
which is nice. But
that's the positive of the whole. Anybody that wants to talk negative about, the internet and how connected we are or whatever, that's the positive right there.
Yeah, and like anything, there's positive and negative.
Sure, nuclear power.
Yeah, and and also with just the connectivity within community sense, working with other artists, going places in person, talking with other artists and people who do events. Sometimes it's like talking out loud and just getting other input where it's like, oh, that makes sense, or like, oh, let me try this. And I work with, like I said, Justin Spahn, as well as Heath Gamoose of Waxmage Records. Essentially, the three of us are collaborating overall for these Baja Blast Taco Bell shows. I pulled in Justin and Heath with what he's contributing and such. I'm trying to incorporate the three of us as kind of a team that can kind of cover all the bases of what's necessary, because as an individual, there's so much involved and so many bases that need to be covered that at this point it's growing and it needs a team, and that's what we're doing currently. So having that like in person, because I know there's a lot of kids out there who basically like live on the internet. Or maybe geographically where they live, they don't have the ability to drive to, wherever is cool, or if they're just outside of, like, if it's a 30-minute drive to the cool place.
Sure, you take it for granted here in Cleveland because you're close to everything.
Yep.
But there are people that live outside,
Yeah, and it's not like, I had to drive 30 minutes to get anywhere noteworthy in Virginia Beach by any means.
Right.
But I just noticed the artistic aspect of the area and the amount of talent. And I mean, it's got its history. Where I'm from, it's got like military presence. Here, I mean, we've got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for a reason, and that it definitely shows. I'm impressed.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot. Well, this is why I'm doing this, really, because
that's what I'm saying.
Because I see it. Mm-hmm. It's there, but you don't see it in the mainstream kind of aspect of things, but it's definitely relevant. I mean, there is a thing happening,
Yeah,
for sure.
If you get curious, it's not the hardest thing in the world to go somewhere, talk to someone, find out, like, oh, here's some cool stuff. Here's where it's at.
Okay, so, all right, I get it, man. You organize things, you're making shit happen. But I mean, so you started, you got with this group back in Richmond. Your parents were supportive, obviously, of your bass playing at the time. And then so you get in bands, whatever. And what actually brings you to Cleveland? Like why? Like why Cleveland?
I'd been here a couple times with an ex, and then we decided to move back here. It's where she was from. Okay. So just kind of like seemed like a decent place to build up and the whole 9 yards. Because several times that I visited, and just like seems like a cool spot.
No, yeah, you were probably like the football team is amazing, so I want to stay. No, I'm kidding.
No, I mean it's cool. It's 3 national sports teams. That's it.
Yeah. Well. I have talked to people that were from different cities, and they don't have like sports teams, and it is kind of weird, I guess I take it for granted because I grew up here, you know what I mean? But we have it's a sports town,
I think it contributes to that community kind of vibe where it's there's a reason for a certain pride with that sports team. And shoot.
It's son great. Of a gun. Now we're talking about the community again. I want to talk about you.
Oh yeah.
No, so all right. So you come to Cleveland.
Yeah. So moved here, and moving with someone in a relationship. Essentially, that went to crap very, very shortly. So I ran into a situation where I kind of got screwed over financially, where the place, couldn't afford it by myself and such, and kind of faced with decisions. It's like, okay, I don't have any reason not to go back to Virginia Beach, of course. I miss my family. Like, it's a cool place. Like, yeah, nothing negative there, but
sure.
I made the journey here. I knew that
you fell in love.
Yeah.
Not only with the city, but with the person that you're with.
But the city definitely got some love for sure. I mean, going
into that. I know you came here for the person, right? Yeah. You didn't come here for the city, but partially that's a byproduct, right?
I mean, like, I came here. I stayed here for a reason,
Yeah.
No, I mean, making a big move like that, I've never had like left my hometown and such like that. So I knew that it was, and also just the circumstances involved. I'm just like, okay, this is a bit of a black hole. I understand what I'm doing in a broader sense than simply being like, okay, this is something I'm doing that I'm just doing it because it seems like it makes sense. I'm just like, all right, if things go to crap, like, I'm there. I'm in a different city. So things went to crap, but I'm just like, something's drawing me here. I couldn't explain it, very well, but I'm just like, all right, I can't go back in a worse state than I came.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, all right. So you come here, obviously, because you're playing in a band right now. Was it your first band that you're in now, or no? What was the first thing you were doing?
Right now I'm playing. It's the first active music project that I'm playing here in Cleveland.
Okay.
I was playing in Virginia Beach, and we go all around Virginia.
Yeah.
And then just timing just happened where that band dissolved, unfortunately, and then I was in this position, got in a relationship, moved here, and then here, like. The music scene was a big part of what was a draw, because we got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here for a reason. Like, there's a lot of cool history, and so I'm like, all right, let me stick through, see what's up. I had a decent IT job where it's like, okay, I'm trying to build up for myself. Let me continue that trajectory. I've got nothing but good intentions, and I'm ready to hustle. So got into a really unfortunate position with the way things turned out, moving here, and ended up having to live out of my car for a couple months, essentially. But I'm in a place where I don't know anybody or the geography, so I just start to hit up some local places that seem cool. Fun houses on West 117th Street. I remember when I moved here, coming down, because I was living right around that area, that I'm just passing by for the first time. I'm like, whoa, that bar looks cool. So then I started to hit that up.
You were right.
Yeah. No, it's for sure. Definitely cool. Like, I'm just like, okay, sick. It's as cool as I thought it would be. That's where I made some of the first friends I did. And, specifically Mike McKay, who runs Black Mass.
Okay.
Him, and one of the bartenders there. I would hit that up and became buddies and friends. They ended up having me crash on their couch. So we were roomies for a while.
Nice.
Good times. Through them, I met a buddy who, hopped in a place with them, and,
sweet.
Living with 3 roommates. One of them happened to be Matt, who played in Pig Rides. He was the vocalist for Pig Rides, who played at the Baja Blast 3. Good times through them. I met my partner, who I'm living with now. So, did a big thing, life change, got humbled by, unfortunate circumstances that real life kind of entails. And I, was very grateful that I ended up along the way finding the support system of, you know, just making friends and decent people who were just decent, you know, they, you know, some homies I meet and then they're like, we feel like you're a decent person, and we kind of caught on to the fact that you might need a place to crash.
Birds of a feather thing.
Yeah, and it's very, you know, like I didn't take it lightly to the fact that like, you know, I'm in this position where living out of my car and such. So yeah, I was very aware of that situation. But going into that situation, I also knew that this would just be, you know, a couple months of having to rough reality, and I'm fortunate enough, and I am was privileged enough to have shelter in the form of a vehicle. There's a lot of people, you know, that are out there just like they don't have that privilege, and so I take nothing for granted. And you know, I'm just trying to grow as a person, because here I am in the situation that I can't say I'm the proudest of. So I was like, all right, I need to do some soul searching. I need to better myself in every single way that I can. So experiencing, you know, harsh reality, it definitely made me grateful for the community that I found here in Cleveland. And in retrospect, I'm just like, this was what I came here for. Nice. You know, beautiful thing. Like I said, I love Virginia Beach.
And you said nothing that you didn't have a negative background with your parents.
Right. No, my mom's Italian, old school, and like, God, you know, nothing will ever compare to her cooking. And yeah, definitely every time I go back and visit, I'm just like, oh, certainly, I'm like, yeah, Mom, you cooking? And my mom's cooking every night, of course.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you probably, this current band you're in right now, tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's actually an artist, individual artist named Unity with two I's, Uniity. I think she played at No Class, most likely is where I saw her. And sometimes she'll play with a DJ backing her, and then sometimes the live band. Yeah. And I caught her with the live band, and I was like, damn, like, I was like, this chick is ripping, and it's like the music's cool, like it's got a cool vibe. And fast forward to the that festival that I threw, it's like 25 different artists. I hit her up because like I'm just like, yo, you kick ass. She at that time, yeah, she was 20. She actually turned 21 at midnight, I think, at that show. Yeah. Anyways, I had hit her up and I was like, hey, I'm putting this event together and I would really love to have you on. Throw me a number. She threw me a number and I was like, or I'm sorry, I threw her a number. I was like, yeah. I was
gonna say, here we are with this event stuff again.
Yeah.
You were an event guy.
No, I'm a musician. It's just like I'm homies with so many people that I get a vision.
You want to make it happen.
Yeah. And there's plenty of people like that in the area, and like working with Justin and Heath as far as, you know, people who are, you know, also feeling that.
If you don't mind me interjecting a little bit here, but seeing that Taco Bell show with Unity, and all the people there, and anybody can go look that up on a YouTube thing, or I'm sure it's on, you know, whatever.
Clevo style, caught all the sets.
Yeah.
And there's Tenzin.
But the performance, she acts like she just commands all those people.
Yeah.
Like she's a force.
So impressive. Because like I said, she just turned 21.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that. I'm just like, damn. Yeah, she really is a force, man. Like, respect. Like, and yeah, I hit her up for that festival, and I threw her a number, and she's like, that'll get me like, you know, a drummer and a guitarist, because she would hire like musicians on a, you know, as basis, you know, because she's trying to work her way up. She does music. She's a like full-time, you know, as like she's a student full-time and works. Yeah. Like, holy cow. So she works hard and it shows. And I hit her up and she's like, oh, that can get me a drummer and a guitarist. So I'm like, ding, ding. I play bass. I think you kick ass. I would totally be down to play bass for you, and I'll do my best because I want my event to be as cool as I can make it. And,
I see.
And yeah, it works out like that. She's like, all right, fine. I was like, you don't have to pay me. Like, I'll do it. Like,
Yeah.
And so I hopped in and kind of hit it off. Like, I saw some things like where I'm just like, hey, like trying to offer my older dude wisdom.
Because you're so old.
Well, I mean, standing next to her where it's like she's doing what she's doing at 21, where I'm just like, yo, let me give like for what it's worth. And I'm just like, yeah.
No, but you have wisdom. You are one of those.
Well, the circumstances and experiences, like, it's like, hey, I can get some homies who would definitely dig your stuff and be down to make like rock with you. And that's where we got James on drums and Chris on guitar. And
so James Prokop, and then who's the guitar player?
That is Chris. Oh my gosh, my mind is blanking.
Well, I didn't want to put you on the spot here.
Oh, no sweat. But James Prokop definitely hopped in and
I'll tell you what, I got nothing but love for that guy, Jim Prokop. He actually was part of the reason why I wanted to start this podcast,
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice, really?
Yeah, because I met him and a couple of his friends, and they were just really funny guys. I was like, I need to film you guys, And then here I am doing this without all that, But they're funny on the spot. You put a camera on them.
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing.
That's what I'm saying. There's so much creativity. Just like I said, like you and I crossed paths with James somehow and crossed paths with you, and he's been homies. And that's how a lot of this stuff happens, where it's like doing these Taco Bell shows and such. It's and why I highlight community, because that's like none of this would be without all the people I know, where I'm connecting dots, where I'm just like, yo, do you want to hop on and do this? Or, hey, can you help with this? It's like,
so we can take this super political and be like, those people that become billionaires, it's not the left wing look at it is, well, it takes a community, whereas the right wing thing is, no, it's all me kind of thing. Is it?
I feel like that's the perspective from. I feel like the mentality of its community is felt on both sides, where it's just a matter of perspective, unfortunately, that creates the nuance why it gets into what we call heated debate, because people are arguing for the same concept, where it's like you're not trying to cross another living human being. But unfortunately, it's about the perspectives. And yeah, that does matter as far as like, okay, here's the flaw in your perspective. And it's a matter of whether someone wants to be open or receptive to having to admit that what they were taught was faulted, and by default they were raised on a misunderstanding or miscomprehension, and you're asking somebody to reevaluate their entire comprehension of some sort of aspect. I'm certainly not saying anything in defense of that, because like I myself had just been like, oh wow, yep, no, that doesn't seem right. Like, and I know that sometimes it's not easy for people to question themselves, but that was like, for me personally, that's a part of my life philosophy, is like question everything.
Sure.
Like I think that there's good to be found, where good can be, and I think good can be anywhere that you inject it.
So that,
unfortunately, yeah, it's always a matter of perspective. So that's where it's like, let's get political about it. And it's like, I'll be as real as possible. And I think that's why when I'm able to have conversations with people that are constructive, because I acknowledge, everybody's humanity, but that's what we need more of, is people acknowledging that humanity rather than trying to maintain a grasp onto something that is really more based within ego than it is within having to kind of acknowledge things that may feel like they undermine your upbringing or morals system, but really, I found nothing but beautiful support and positivity.
So, what I heard out of that, is ego versus empathy.
Overall, but the ego.
I'd hate to simplify that, the beautifully portrayed, but I'm just essentially creating a talking point.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah. I mean, let's say, for example, nuclear family type, the concept that, and that whole narrative being pushed and idealized, and that there are certain morals that support, what you expect or want in that traditional nuclear family. And then we've got modern society that is kind of shifted in a way that allows this, what, we kind of see in retrospect is a broadening of equal rights within everybody involved, in any family type can have whatever role they want in that system. It doesn't have to be that traditional nuclear where it's like man, work, woman,
Right.
Absolutely. And
we talked about this a little bit before.
Yeah.
We started this, but yeah.
Yeah. So I think that trying to hold on to something, I'm not saying that there's some situations that does work, and it's just completely, that's what works, and it's not about any kind of like oppression. Like that nuclear family type might work for a family who is still progressive thinking.
I definitely, I don't know many, but I do know some.
Yeah.
That dynamic, that it works for them. It's, I don't know what kind of things they're suppressing or whatever. I don't know, whatever. They're doing it well, whatever. But I think that the nuclear family, for some people, I haven't seen it happen.
Yeah.
A lot.
Right.
But it does.
Context.
There are some.
Yeah, and I'm willing to acknowledge context where context does fit appropriately for sure. Yeah. And I feel like overall, people who try to do better and be better, I feel like that's been a trend. And I think that, we talked earlier about the internet and especially like social media involved, but the internet itself, gave people anonymity to where ideas are putting out there that you couldn't just, go into a public space and yell, this is how I feel, and I'm not ashamed to feel it.
Well, people used to do that
back
in ancient Greece and stuff like that. Yeah.
There'd be repercussions.
People just shouting.
Yeah.
Yeah, drinking hemlock.
Get caught, get accused of blasphemy or, just being oppressed. And the internet with the anonymity, like I said, I'm not trying to glorify, I'm just acknowledging things that are positive, because there's always positive and negative there. It's just like, just check out the positive, like.
Always, yeah. I agree. Yeah. I'm more of I know there's a positive, negative thing. And I think that the being aware and awake, I know that's a weird thing to say now, but to really be awake to the things, I mean, that is a real thing. They bastardize it.
Well, I don't think that
they want to bastardize that because they don't want people to be awake, I think.
I feel that there is concern for a degree of control on a broader sense and trying to encompass, the whole point of why people even made that a thing.
Right.
But I feel like that word doesn't even mean anything until you've had that experience of realizing like, I just was I was kind of like latched on to concepts and ideas because it's essentially muscle memory ingrained in me. And I'm not trying to say that, anybody, like, I'm not trying to fault where that came from, because it's a natural part of how people pass down like traditions. It seems to be like a natural part of, societies and humans, families, that unfortunately we're also human. Like we're prone to error, and some ideas kind of filter through that, down the line here you get these ideas come the internet era where people are like putting very risque ideas out there or challenging ideas. And I mean, there's been plenty of brave people throughout history who have, put their lives at the stake to just be themselves and such. Just example, Alan Turing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
sure. The whole, am I a robot?
Yeah, well, but then some of the aspects with him being homosexual kind of seem to overshadow his contribution towards
you're
computers in general.
Sure. But there's I don't think in the scientific community, I don't think there's any dispute on his
and I think that's
genius.
Right. And and I know about it and I just mentioned it and about it. So I feel like, the truth and decency does prevail throughout, ultimately. Right. And that's what gives me hope for, when I see something that's just like, ugh.
But even though somebody like, him or Brunei or whatever, or Turing, first, great example, he was persecuted for being who he was.
Yep.
Yeah. But his idea lived on, though.
Exactly. Yeah. And sure, there's still crappy people who are still pushing, cruddy ideals, and that's part of intermingling society. Yeah. I think that, like I said, I have hope because here we are being able to talk about it in a forum, or people don't have to hide as much as they used to, but just this easy. We're watching capabilities for personal freedoms to be stripped, and going into that political discourse. What I say for my thoughts are just coming down to humanistic level, and just acknowledging humanity itself, with I try to live healthy both physically and mentally, and there's a lot of adversity to face, but for me to even say that as a cisgender straight white dude, there's definitely reality that I have to acknowledge for my own self and my own place in society, where it's like, okay, if I'm, for example, if I'm running a Taco Bell show, Bob Blast 3, it's like, what do I want? Well, I want reality. I want a true time, a good time that represents the real times we have in Cleveland. Like, some of the coolest shows I see are local artists, and that's where I'm just like, all right, I want representation for the reality that I experience here in Cleveland, where I see so many artists that span, whether it's trans artists, gay artists, BIPOC, it doesn't matter. Everybody's there, and I think that definitely needs to be seen. And I'm really grateful that there are amazing artists that I was able to have on like the Baja Blast 3 Taco Bell show, where it's representative of a community of people of all different types and backgrounds and such. And that's just me, like, as a person, where I'm down to acknowledge what's cool and what's good. Nothing superficial is really worth putting down another human being.
Well, that's well said. I can't, me personally, I cannot dispute anything you just said. But there are people out there. I don't know what is it about people that are against the ideology, I guess, that you're, can you like look into how somebody would disagree with you and try and understand like what they would say?
Yeah, I feel like people would highlight. I feel like it reaches a certain point where so for the nature of some of the things I do with like the video game event stuff I do with N69, just, the name alone, N69, comes from like N64, Nintendo 64, haha, raunchy,
and
whatever.
then you got the sexual part of it.
Yeah. The innuendo, like, it's just silly fun.
Yeah.
Like, I made a family-friendly brand called Cletendo for events that I, trying to make truly like more family friendly and such. And even though N69 is the brand that was there as far as, production for Taco Bell Baja Blast 3, and there, it was ultimately family friendly as far as kids being able to be there. Anything we had, I made sure that there wasn't going to be anything that like actually crossed the line for being and existing in a public space. So with that in mind, I realized that having, these ideas and concepts that resonate with people who are, within a certain youth. And I realized that for a lot of people who do perhaps identify with like, even if it's not identifying with like traditional family style or just having kids and such, that the overall concept of setting an example or having influence, especially over like younger people. I am aware of that within our musical community, that's why I'm also trying to create a healthy atmosphere and positive atmosphere and context with these shows, like mainly, especially Taco Bell, Baja Blast shows, because there's a lot, I'm getting older and 32, turning 33. Yeah. And I'm seeing new faces come up in the scene.
Yeah.
And I've watched over the last at least a year and plenty longer, but you see stuff, and I've been in the scene for a minute now here living in Cleveland. And I've seen circumstances where it's like there have been people who've been influential to like younger kids in the scene that I'm seeing pop up now, that they're doing, not making good decisions ultimately, and just going into some questionable directions. And I'm just
we mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
You mentioned that earlier, that you make mistakes, but you learn from them. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, do better, be better.
Right.
If you don't do that, then, I'll keep that in mind with what I do and stay in mind.
I think an important part of being better is empathy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if that's not part of the equation, I don't think humanity exists.
Yeah. And that plays into, the sense of community that I had, because I was in a position where I wasn't, in the best situation when I was like living out my car and such. And like I said, I fall in line with like majority, like straight cis white dude, but still people helped me out. And there's this beautiful community of people who did not, there's no judgment, and it was just very
empathetic.
True. Yes. Yeah. Human, like real
human. That's what I'm saying. If there's no if there's no empathy, there's no humanity.
Yeah.
I think it's synonymous. In a way.
I mean, we define humans as people being, like us. We acknowledge ourselves as the most intellectual beings on this planet, but like I think you mentioned global warming earlier, and we gotta tiptoe around things because it's like, debate and.
Big oil has a lot of money.
Yeah, and
and they influence the talking points.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I don't think they're getting paid in empathy.
No, they are not. That is a good point.
I think they know that too, or I just don't think they understand. There's a difference between knowing and understanding.
What do you think it is, like with somebody that's just like an Elon Musk or whatever, like the left championed him, because he's making electric cars,
Mm-hmm.
Well, now then he realized, wait, I'm not selling cars to right wingers, so now I guess he's a right winger now, and now they're selling whatever. So
yeah.
I don't know. You know, it's just somebody that's motivated by money. Like he's the richest. I bring him up because he's the richest guy in the world.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like,
well, didn't he buy into PayPal or basically he got in after the, you know, steps were put in by whoever took those first steps, and then he kind of just like bought in, and it kind of just grew from there. You know, that whole like, it was just business deals.
yeah, you don't.
It gets convoluted. To
you don't
like,
get into money by not having money.
Yeah, exactly. So it's almost like, yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole where it's like,
Right.
What is the psychology behind Elon Musk? Where
No,
it's just
there's a whole club that we're not a part of.
Oh yeah.
And you never will be.
And it may not even be intentional is the scary part. I mean, there's a lot of intention behind a lot of exclusivity that does exist for sure. But I feel like in a normal kind of like normally accessible way, I see situations where it's like, okay, people in positions of power will do something to take advantage, and that's where I like see these things happening where I was talking about how there's a lot of people who are doing cool things, but then they make bad decisions, and younger people in the scene kind of like, you know, just are like, I think impressionable, of course, naturally. And yeah, I see it to where it's like, okay, now it affects me in the sense where it's like, I don't want to work with that artist because it's not something that I want to be associated with. And so as far as like real life application for just, you know, whoever, as you know, I know we're talking big talk with big businesses and such,
right.
But to relate it to an everyday level,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, like with, you know, I know this stuff that I do is not exactly every day, but I had, you know, here I am doing stuff and I'm just realizing, you know, I want cool stuff. I want people to realize like, you don't have to be doing anything like, it's not like you can't have fun and be decent.
No, I think that's a very, it's an obvious but novel point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, yeah, you don't have to fuck people over, you know, to have a good life.
No, actually, yeah.
You know, and I think having a lot of money, I think you fuck a lot of people over.
Yeah, but people want a lot of money, so that just ends up happening to have to seem to be part of the equation. It's like, if you're not making enemies, you're doing something wrong. And it's like, there's context. And
so
like,
you think you're on the other side of, you don't want to make enemies.
I mean, I'm not trying. And if I have anybody that, you know, is somebody that I am in opposition to, I'm trying my best to make sure that my opposition to them is through whether or not my perspective is decent objectively versus theirs not decent. Like, I'm not gonna have a problem unless you're infringing on other people's, you know, like,
it's more of
autonomy and existence and rights.
I think, you know, and we talk of objectivity and subjectivity, and it's like, I think, you know, I think you're more of a objectivity kind of person, whereas it's like, what are the facts? What is real? Whereas, you know, somebody that's like an idealistic kind of person, you know, that kind of like fits into this, you know, joining a group or whatever, or some kind of, you know, yeah, whether it be blue or red or whatever, you know, whatever you want to join. It could be a religion, you know, and it's a subjective truth. It's just something that you're made to believe unobjectively. I don't know.
Yeah. I also feel like the unfortunate part is that I have to be unbiased in my acknowledgement of the humanity, you know, of another human being. It's like, okay, well, they've got a really bad perspective on this aspect of what I perceive as human rights. And my take in understanding a person, I have no problem being firm in my conviction that, like, okay, I definitely don't want to work with this person, but I still acknowledge that, like, understanding that concept of, like, okay, you were maybe taught something that's ingrained. I acknowledge that, but I also acknowledge that it's, you're an adult. Like, you need to either grow up and maybe, walk into the scary deep end of what if I was wrong about my, what my daddy taught me. But I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to inject my stuff over anybody. Like, you can't force anybody to see things in a humanistic way. It's something that, they got to catch on to themselves. And I feel like going back to the whole internet gives the anonymity. I feel like in real life, I'm experiencing things where people are being more open-minded. People are asking me, what are my pronouns? Just more open-minded concepts that I'm not expecting. I'm not judging if that doesn't happen. But, there's a sense of awareness, and if something doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt. And yeah, it just boils down to humanity, man. Like,
yeah, I agree. People talk about, like, differences between generations and stuff like that. I don't see differences. I see everybody, like, are you empathetic or are you not? Yeah. And I think it's like a more of a, let me try and see your point of view, instead of, no, I have my point of view and you have to see mine. Right?
Whoever's talking wants to be heard. I feel like that what you're trying to say, it is timeless. It is contextless, that want to just find decency in the most objective sense, because I feel like those things are going to be true regardless of context. Because, let's say 15,000 BC, you got a person and their entire context of existence is completely
That's before
different.
The Younger Dryas, just so you know.
What's that? Oh, okay. Sorry. Let's say 3000 BC. Yeah. Thank you.
Wait.
So 3000 BC, and then we can't even imagine where we're going to be 3,000 years from now. Right. So let's say 5000 AD,
sure.
Or this day and age, AE. What? It's gonna be completely alien. So, but what's not alien is just decency, compassion, empathy.
Yes.
These humanistic aspects.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, and I think no matter how, whatever happens and whatever changes, whatever generations, whatever, decency is decency.
Yeah.
And respecting people, understanding that things change.
Absolutely.
The only constant is change.
But that's difficult. Like, that's a scary thing, like, objectively, and that's where it's hard to say. It's not hard it seems hard to overcome that, because consistency is part of familiarity. Having something as a constant, like, life is scary.
Tradition.
Existing, being a person, like, yeah, if you don't have those traditions, it's like, where am I? What am I? Who am I? Like, what am I doing? Like, having those things that allow you to do without even thinking, that are just part of life, that just are rules because they're rules. In reality, a lot of those things have just kind of been passed down through a majority perspective and perception. And then it's just a chain reaction where it's like, okay, well, information is being put out there. Who's putting it out? Whoever's leading that whole concept of, who got the ability to have some sort of control over a spread of information in the United States. Most likely, as far as history goes, straight cis white dude kind of type situation.
Watch the movie Citizen Kane.
Yeah, it's so. So yeah, we end up in this day and age where a lot of our information on a mass media level, there's going to be some sort of bias somewhere in the mix where it's like people have their Fox News that they can watch, or they can have this other place,
MSNBC, or
whatever, and that's where you can start to get into these echo chambers where that's a whole other can of worms. So.
Well, but those news agencies also are big conglomerates.
Yep.
They're owned.
Rabbit hole goes deeper. Yeah.
They're not gonna go against oil companies.
Yeah.
You never hear any news agency talk anything about, because the oil companies pay them.
Yeah.
And the pharmaceutical companies. And, it's like big business owns the media.
Yeah.
I mean, watch Citizen Kane, man. Anybody out there.
Yeah. I'm not trying to spout conspiracy theory by any means.
There is no conspiracy theory with that. That is reality.
Right. Yep. and I feel like to some people, the moment somebody opens their mouth, even saying something in that direction, and because things are just so
they will shut you down.
Yeah. And it's like, I wish. Like,
I think with the internet now, you do get people that, I mean, they're like, we've talked, I think before we started rolling, that they just haven't gotten there yet. They're gonna stop. They're gonna control.
Yeah. I mean, everything's evolving.
Because there's so much free speech going on. They can't have that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this country preaches free speech, but the people in control do not want it.
Right. And then everybody on every side is kind of, acknowledging something where they feel, trespassed upon within their right. And that's where it just gets so convoluted, even more so, because it's like, everybody feels wronged. What's going on? We need to reevaluate things here. But I think as technology grows, I think, who's going to be on top of that stuff? The people who want to maintain the control that they currently have. Not in a, oh my God, let me be too paranoid about it.
Right.
But just just being real about it, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a certain selfishness that is part of the equation, because decent people, like I would say you and I, would not, and that's why they say, anybody that's worth anything would not want to be president, would not want to be ruler, because they don't think that needs to exist. I don't need someone to tell me what to do. I know what's right. I know to be empathetic.
Right.
I know to try and care about the people around me. I know that. I don't need someone to tell me that. And people that want like a dictator, I apparently just don't. It seems as though, I'm not going to sit here and say, whatever. It just seems as though they need someone to tell them what to do. And I don't know. How do you feel about what I just said?
Yeah, I feel like I think people more so identify with the positive aspects that they can and take the wins that they can, as opposed to try to be critical of all the cons and all the negatives, because certainly I feel like when we're boiling this what's being pushed is essentially, for example, in our political voting, political system, you get
in the
two
year
choices.
2024.
Yeah, in the year 2024, and you boil down representation for an entire nation to two people, and they happen to be the two people, and it's just like, really, like nobody at all was out there that was just like really encompassing of.
No, it happens to be the two people that are paid by the same people.
Yeah, and you get the situation where everybody's saying the same thing, where it's like, right. I'm just voting the lesser evil. I'm just like, I'm just playing the cards and we're dealt. This is life. This is how it is. It's what it is. And it's like, now it's how we made it. It's what we made it. And I that's where I'm just like trying to have a debate about a lot of these aspects. Almost comes down to, I feel like, somebody's in their big high chair, getting a laugh at my expense as somebody who's talking about the situation, but doesn't feel a sense of ability to have any sense of control or true influence, which is, a horrible feeling, because that's what, essentially it's like, no, go out and vote and be more open-minded to, yes, it's always been a two-party system, but that just ties into this whole concept of being open to, what if, like, change doesn't have to necessarily be bad. It sure can be a scary thing. But like I said, I'm also not trying to force people into something, because that's just simply futile.
The last 4 elections, I think I voted third party. I gave up on the whole two-party system.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
People are like, what, you have to pick the lesser of two. No, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. It really is.
There's no way that currently two people can really encapsulate what you value as a human being.
Right.
Unless that's just how you are as a human being. And I'm just saying. But,
no, yeah. I wanted to say earlier, it's not the strongest or the most intelligent that survive. It's the most adaptive to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a Darwin thing, and that's not me, but
adaptability is certainly important.
And it really is, it's like and that's why I keep pushing the empathy, trying to understand how someone else feels. Like, I think is a fundamental.
Well, I feel like, especially in this day and age where, like, all I have to do to experience crazy things is just open up the rectangle in my pocket and just start scrolling, so that things are being fed to us in such a way. I call it
the propaganda rectangle.
Yeah, nice.
The one on the one on your wall. Whatever.
Yeah, either or. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the way that it is. Like, it can be a little bit more sincere and made that way, but the people, in Bauer at play, like, I understand it's not as simple as that, but, like, it can be better. We can do better. It might come at some sort of cost of, can't hoard this much as opposed to this much, that much. But I think as far as humanistic decency, yeah, there's a lot of room for progression. And tying that into, like, doing the Taco Bell show, it's like, okay, so we're doing these shows at Taco Bell and their corporation and such. And at this point, the location that we've been doing this is a franchise.
I kind of want Taco Bell right now. Just this is a big ad for Taco Bell.
Well, tying that into the whole
I'm sorry. Yeah, I know you were real.
Yeah. Tying that into the whole concept, it's like, okay, we're talking, and I'm obviously aware of some of these aspects and situations, and then it's like, okay, well, you're doing these shows at Taco Bell, and it's like I had mentioned earlier, it's never about, Taco Bell. It's like, let's do a show. Where do we want to play a show? To be able to say, I want to play a show at Taco Bell. First of all, it's just it'd be a weird, silly thing to say out loud in any context. But then to say
it's
like,
works.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I want to play a show at Taco Bell. I think it'd just be fun, silly. I think why not? Like, yes, I acknowledge all the things that suck and, reality, and we can get all political, and then capitalism and blah, blah, blah and such.
Right.
But it's not about Taco Bell. It's about putting a show together DIY. Where do we want to do it? We'll do it here. And to be able to say, I want to do a show here at Taco Bell, and then to do it, and then to have it go as well as it did, feel awesome, and just have a great time with all the artists and bands involved.
I guess that has it's something to say about the freedom of this country, because first of all, I would have thought, what, this shit's crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to get shut down, whatever,
silly,
whatever. But it happened.
It happened well because the people
very
involved.
Good thing. It was positive. Everything was great about it.
Yeah, the artists, the bands, so Pig Rides,
Yeah,
Muzzle, The Dead Don't Sleep, Unity, Unvow, Dems Fighting Words, and 86. It was super professional the way, like, just staying on time as far as bands go. We did 2 backline setups. So the organization aspect, I spent a lot of time trying to make sure that I wasn't going to overlook anything. I feel like I got pretty good experience from trying to run a 25 person artist show. And I guess in retrospect, like, I aim very high and hold expectations for myself. And I'm just like, okay, like, I can do this, like, if I put my mind to it. And personally, you know, there's some cons and things, like lessons I learned that I was like, all right, if I ever do this again, and I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to do Taco Bell and just try to apply all the things that I learned, that over the past couple of years, somehow everything lined up that I was the person who was able to pull this off. And I definitely brought in assistance where, you know, it was certainly necessary. And I was grateful for things to go well working with Justin and Heath as well. And to be able to be working with people who also maintain similar minded goals and such. With Justin, you know, wanting to do something great with the community. I actually met him because I was putting together a video game cover band. It was one of the ideas that I had for my video game events. I was like, it'd be cool to do, like, you know, have a band, we'll learn some Mario Kart covers, do rocked out versions, and play that live and such. Never came to fruition, really. We did the festival, and we played some cover songs for the tournament level music. It was a Super Smash Brothers Melee. And he played drums in that, Justin. And long story short, he offered to help out with some aspects with the Taco Bell Baja Blast 3. I was like, all right, brought him on board to help with where he could. And then Heath had actually, so Heath runs Wax Mage Records, which operates out of Gotta Groove Records. And I know Heath because I work at Gotta Groove Records, and Heath reached out to me saying, hey, I want to contribute to the scene community and help out and such. And at this point, we're right now working on a release for a record come spring for a Taco Bell compilation album.
Nice.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, and Heath is working with a couple record labels and making doing amazing things. He's a total saint. And so I have him definitely on our production team. We're working on creating our brand together. And yeah, ultimately working with them, doing what we could. I did as much as I could to try to make a cool show with all the artists involved. Like I said, I was mostly inspired to start doing events, working with, or just having friends who did events. I'm just like, wow, certainly impressive. I try not to be cocky about it with regards to like, oh, I can run an event. Like I I was just trying to have fun. I was like, all right, it'll be what it is. And it's cool. It's fine. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's like, oh, you know, when it's a little bit slower, I'm like, you know what? I'll play a video game and have a good time. But yeah, I was very fortunate to make a lot of friends, and there's a lot of awesome, decent people, like the dancers at Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Excuse me, it was Miss Holly Grail, and
Holly Grail.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, and Big Top.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent dancers. Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah, you had the pole there.
And then we had a Super Smash Brothers Melee tournament. So
and then you also had other things there too.
Yeah, we had a fingerboarding. That's essentially a fingerboarding park. Noah Utterback is a sponsored fingerboarder. Brought the works and was doing some demoing. It was artists involved with the Taco Bell Baja Blast 3 that we did at Taco Bell on the West 117. A lot of other artists involved other than the bands themselves. So as I mentioned, is Pig Rides, Muzzle, Dead Don't Sleep, Unity, Unvowed, Dems Fighting Words, 86. We also had our dancers, particularly of the pole variety. We had Big Top as well as Miss Holly Grail.
Oh.
That did a fantastic job and you know, kept it within the understanding and acknowledgement that we're in a public space, that, you know, it wasn't anything that would be, you know, overly like inappropriate or anything by any degree, but that it highlighted the art that it was and just added to the vibe and atmosphere. That combined that, you know, I do these video game events, and I started working with a buddy of mine, Brett, who runs Power Star Games. Where I've actually started having him collaborate with me on events where he'll do these tournaments. So like Super Smash Brothers Melee or Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, which is the Switch version. He started taking the helm on those, and I started doing like other competitions, or I've actually been doing it's rock band karaoke, which Justin, Chef Idiot Face, Parma Trash.
Wait, how does that work though?
It's basically just rock band, and it's like if you want to do karaoke, and we have a bunch of songs that he's got an account on Xbox that a lot of songs are downloaded.
So what, you got like the little guitar?
Yeah. I got 2 guitars for guitar, bass, drums, and there's 2 vocals, actually, 2 microphones. And it's like if you want to do, you know, regular karaoke without people doing the music, you can do that. You can do vocals with like having a buddy play the drums to the song. Or if you just want to just play guitar to whatever cool song, it's just whatever you're trying to vibe with. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Rock band. Like it's the video game itself. So figured to give that a shot. But yeah, so Brett with Power Star Games, he actually ran the tournament that we had at Taco Bell. So we had a Super Smash Brothers Melee tournament. And I'm trying to recall. I believe, I don't want to say the wrong person that made first place, but yeah. I did announce who the winners and such were, but it was a very, very cool thing. It's always cool, like I mentioned earlier, the Melee scene, especially, but the competitive local Cleveland gaming scene. Definitely have been very cool. Decent, and I made a lot of friends, especially through the Melee avenues, where it's just people, I see the same people coming out and they're just homies, and it's good to see them. It's good to see them compete and watch, you know, people who become friends get better. But also that was part of the festival that I threw, where I had, you know, all these different music artists and comedians, drag, do this, do their thing while there's a whole competition going on. And ultimately, I'm just like, I've met a lot of cool cats in this video game stuff that I do, that I just want a bunch of cool people in one place. And it's contagious. So I'm grateful that there's a pattern of decency happening at these events that I'm directly involved with. But going back to it, so we had Power Star Games do the video game tournament, sure. Super Smash Brothers Melee, and then we also had Noah Utterback do his essentially fingerboarding demos, and he's actually
I saw that. Yeah, he was at the Taco Bell thing.
Yeah. And he's sponsored. Very, very awesome person. And for the next Baja Blast Quattro, we're planning. We're getting things in motion for that. We're trying to expand on more ideas, include all that. Shout out as well to Tyler Lanning, who did our sound. He was our sound guy for Baja Blast 3. Definitely saved the day and held it down, made everything sound as best as it could with what we had going on equipment-wise.
Sweet.
Group effort overall, and that's why I'm just super grateful to my community, because that's all this all stems to, and I'm not trying to be too cheesy or anything, but it's beautiful to see and be a part of, and I'm grateful. Definitely looking forward to what's to come next. Got a lot of cool ideas in the flow in the mix, and I'm definitely looking forward to, everybody getting savvy to the local Cleveland DIY scene. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. Come out to live events. For me, it's No Class as a big central place where I just come across a lot of really great, genuine people and crawl along the area. There's plenty of venues up and down all around. through my video game brand in '69. I've been to Terrestrial Brewing Company, done events there, done events at was it in Lakewood? It's excuse me. Gosh, I got so many on my list.
Well, I know Terrestrial.
Winchester,
That's
sorry, Winchester.
Yeah, Terrestrial's the or the whole battery.
Battery
park over there.
Super solid brunch at pet friendly, yo. I can't have a bad time when I'm like looking over and there's a puppy just being a puppy. But yeah, good times. Yeah, like I said, it's a group effort, so everybody involved. I'm looking forward to the next one. Got some good big plans happening. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what. It was really, really good to get this.
Absolutely.
Get this in here, man.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Dude,
ching ching.
Yeah. Salute, man. And all right. Well, here's to DIY.
Cleveland.
And
love.
Subseally, we're out.